yourself up and release your insecurities, Dr. Kristen Neff has identified 3 main components of self-compassion. She sees these time and again. The first one is mindfulness. Mindfulness. Why does mindfulness come first? It's because when you and I are blaming ourselves, diminishing ourselves, belittling ourselves, we can't even begin to comprehend how we feel. And the first step of self-compassion is to understand and embrace what you are feeling in the moment. It is the ability to ask yourself, this is the practice. You ask a simple question, how am I feeling? What am I feeling? Am I sad, confused, angry, irritated? There's also happy, joyful. But normally we don't have to think about those so much. We just go with it, which is fine. That's the practice of being mindful. Once you have the ability to stop, to take one step back from the drama, and that's what asking the question, how do I feel, does. It allows us to step outside the drama. As much as we may love drama. And that opens the door to self-compassion. The second step is common humanity. Self-compassion transcends blame and judgment. It doesn't care, and it doesn't matter if we create our own suffering or not. I'd like you to share that with me. I'll say it, and then we can say it together. It doesn't matter if I created my own suffering or not. Would you say this with me? It doesn't matter if I created my own suffering or not. Right. It just doesn't. You can just release that one. Just another reason to beat yourself up. Like, oh, I did this to myself. I deserve it. She says it she writes in her book, she does workshops on self-compassion all over the country. And she cannot believe how many people are so bound up in their need for self-criticism. She writes, they think that the self-criticism, the harsh stuff, is useful, that they need it, that it helps them in some way. And if they were to give it up, they wouldn't have the motivation they need to succeed. It's amazing how entrenched that line of thinking is. She says it sometimes takes hours for people to comprehend the very simple concept of self-compassion. When the Dalai Lama first got here to the West, he was amazed, bewildered at the level of self-criticism he encountered. Because he didn't find this in the East. Not like it shows up here in our culture. Just a couple months ago, I was talking with one of our congregants, and she said to me, I am such a bad mother. I said, really? And I said, do you beat your children? She said, no. I said, then next time you have the thought, I'm such a bad mother, I want you to affirm this. I am not a bad mother. I don't beat my children. I say humbly, I think it's one of the best affirmations I've ever come up with. Humbly. And she has shared with me that she's used it to great effect more than once. The second component, I said, is the common humanity. And it's transcending that need to blame ourselves. See, when we make a mistake, we tend to think that we're the only one. We tend to think that we're that special. Trust me, you're not. You're not that special. You're not the only one who have made that mistake. Millions have made the same mistake. for millennia before you, and they will probably to come. So get over that. Next time you make a mistake, don't let it separate you from others. Let it bring you a step closer to others. Because we're all human. To err is human. To forgive. Amen. You can affirm for yourself, it's okay that I made a mistake. Everyone does. It's okay. It's all right when I make a mistake. Just don't add, especially when I do it. Okay, because then you make yourself special in the other direction. The third component is kindness to yourself. And by this, Dr. Neff means more than moving past self-judgment. She's talking about actively soothing yourself. So, put this arm out. Put this arm out. Wrap this arm here. Wrap this arm here. Now squeeze. We call that a hug. Keep squeezing. You deserve it. Physiologically, psychologically, this works virtually as good when somebody else does it. Do you know that this is a yoga pose? It is. This is a yoga pose. Now, if you were feeling stressed, if you are feeling stressed, you can lower your head a little bit, close your eyes, and say to yourself, "Dear one, I know this is very difficult for you now. I understand." And squeeze a little harder. That practice works, especially when you do it. The repeated practice of these 3 steps through thousands of studies that Dr. Neff has done with cohorts has shown amazing increase in happiness, decrease in anxiety and depression, increases in wisdom, emotional intelligence, intellectual intelligence, and the big one, fun. People that practice this have a lot more fun. And don't ever think that life isn't about having fun. This past Tuesday morning, I was sitting with my mom at the VA Medical Center, and we were waiting for word on the results of my stepfather's examination. And after about an hour and a half, the doctor comes out and sits down with us. And he explains that, that the tissue in my stepfather's throat had once again grown closed. And so they did a procedure to expand the tissue in that area. They expanded it from an opening that was less than the size of half an eraser head up to a size just about a quarter. And I asked the doctor, will my stepfather now be able to possibly eat some broth and maybe some cream soup? And the doctor said, I hope so. Because for the last 5 months, my stepfather has been getting all of his nourishment in liquid form through a feeding tube. And we asked him a few more questions, and then he left us. And my mom was sitting there. I was sitting right next to her. And she was looking forward and just a bit down. And she remained that way for some time. I could see and feel her mind working. I could sense her energy moving, shifting, changing. And it wasn't until I detected just a bit of a deeper breath. Then I asked, Mom, what are you thinking? And still looking forward, she said, I had hoped for better news, but this is good. You see, she wanted something different. She wanted something more. She wanted the doctor to come out and say that the malignant tissue in her husband's throat was gone, that he was normal. And that isn't what she received. My mother is a woman of great love, profound strength, and she's possessed of one of the most positive attitudes in any human being I have yet encountered. And she's been this way all my life. She wanted something different, but she took what was, and she consciously transformed something she didn't want into something good. It was an amazing witness of the power of self-compassion. She didn't blame anything within herself or outside of herself. She allowed herself to be at peace. She allowed the world around her to be at peace. And on Wednesday afternoon, my mom's name, many of you know her as Lois, and my stepfather's name is Norm. On Wednesday afternoon, Norm ate a bowl of chicken noodle soup, the first real food he's had in 5 months. A complete faith in God requires self-compassion, loving yourself, being kind to yourself. Let's be that to ourselves.